Pigweed here. Today we review a porter and discuss the intentional destruction of the West. Good evening.
Hey, Pigweed, good to see you. How's it going? How about some beer and conversation?
I think that's a great idea. What are we drinking?
Porter.
Oh, very good.
Okay.
Very good.
Fantastic. So what's on your mind tonight?
Oh, gosh. Well, I finally got my hands on the newsletter, the memo.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Print or email?
No, print. This one comes in the mail.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You know the one. The deliberate subversion and demolition of the West.
I haven't seen that one, but why are you getting that?
Well, it took I'm not really the kind of guy that would be on their mailing list,
right.
So, just had to do a little sly maneuver to get that because, as you can tell, this clearly an orchestrated effort.
Yes.
There's strict bullet points. It's a monthly.
Yeah.
And it comes out. It gives you the talking points,
marching orders,
what we've achieved so far, and what's the next step. Because you got to get everybody on the same page. Because otherwise, how would you do it? Word of mouth, telepathy. It's
through the news, maybe.
Maybe I will tell you more. I will share more if you'll share a beer with me.
Okay, very good. So let's drink this beer. This is Dark Slide Porter from Key Brewing. They're right up the street. And this is a rye porter. I'd brew a rye porter, my Good Friday porter. So I'm kind of curious how this compares to my rye porter.
Interesting. Yeah, go ahead and get in there. I would say it's got a few more chocolate notes than your average porter.
And more than mine does, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of chocolate going on.
Yeah, a lot of chocolate going on there. I'm not sure where the spicy rye
I'm not
comes
tasting
in,
the spicy rye. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit on the back end.
Somebody says, "Do you think there's rye in this?" I'm not sure. I could help you with that.
There's a little bit of a sharp, spicy edge on the back end, but definitely way more chocolate than I expected. But anyway, it's good. It's very good.
Really good.
It's very, very rich. It's almost like a breakfast porter.
Breakfast porter, 5.5, right where you would expect it.
Right where you expect a porter to be. That's right. Well done, Key Brewing. Send us some more. We'll look forward to it. Okay, so tell me about this newsletter thing here.
All right, there's not a newsletter.
No, it's not a newsletter.
But it feels like it.
But I've got to say something about newsletters.
Okay.
Newsletters are paper.
Yes.
Those things you get in by email, those are e-newsletters. Okay?
Yeah.
Just like you have mail and you have email.
Yeah.
You have newsletters and you have e-newsletters.
Right.
Okay? And that's the way it ought to be.
Okay.
So
I got it right then.
You did.
My fake newsletter. Yes. The reason I introduced it that way is, yes, it feels like there's clearly a concerted effort to tear down the West, and we'll go through those points. But it feels organized and orchestrated, and that would only be done if there was a central voice disseminating information,
doing it
like a newsletter. But
we haven't found it yet. Now, there are some candidates. The communist Chinese are trying to undermine the West, and the Soviets used to be. I don't know if the Russians... Today, the Russians are trying to undermine us by, putting stupid stuff on X, but, I don't know if they have the same long-term goal of destroying the West.
No.
I don't think so.
No, I mean, they're weak commies now. They're not really, they're not full-blown.
That's right. They're not full-blown commies. But the Chinese communists, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a long-term plan.
The Confucius Institute or whatever that they have on campuses and etc. So this is inspired by whom?
Yeah, so I don't know the guy's name. We couldn't find it. So first we saw it on X, a little video on X. And I looked it up and found it on YouTube. And the title on YouTube, if you want to look it up, it's a very interesting video. It's called "The Deliberate Subversion and Demolition of the West."
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
on X, if you want to see it, on Wide Awake Media, it's on X. It's posted under the tag Wide Awake Media. But anyway, if you want to find it, and maybe I'll put a link in the show notes. So.
Right. So he says you can feel something happening in the Western world. It's not just cultural. It's psychological. A silent shift is underway, and it has a name: the inversion matrix.
Yeah, so it's not just cultural drift. It's, things change over time. Ties get thicker and they get thinner. And pant legs get wider and smaller. But what we're seeing, this isn't just some natural progression. This is not accidental. This is people intentionally trying to undermine the West.
Yes. And the Matrix reference is that once you see it, you see it.
Right.
So it isn't like you say, it isn't just sort of the natural progressive progression. There's something else going on here, and that's what he. And so when you see it, that's the term, the red pill.
Yeah.
Right? So how does the red pill, the topic, and the movie?
Yeah. So Morpheus, is that his name?
Yeah.
Offers Neo. Right. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie. A red pill or a blue pill. And the red pill means you're going with the truth, and the blue pill means you go back to your.
Right. And so when people say, "Gosh, you know what, I bought into
red pill.
I bought into feminism.
Right.
I was raised on the idea that just if you're a nice guy, you believe in feminism, and then you sort of your eyes open and you realize, wait a minute, I've been looking at this all wrong. I've been buying this line
nonsense,
of thinking.
Right. Yeah.
For so long, and I've been red-pilled.
Yes.
Right? And so now I see what's going on.
Yeah, in a way, it's, when people have a worldview, that worldview infiltrates everything that they think.
Yes.
And you don't just say one thing to somebody and overturn their worldview. It doesn't work like that. There has to be
because you're psychologically very tied to that, and it's upsetting.
Yes. So you have all these things. It's like this big web of all these things that you believe. And there get to be cracks in foundations, and this doesn't seem to work anymore. And then eventually it just kind of all crumbles. And that's kind of the red pill phenomenon, where you realize, well, wait a minute, this other way of looking at things is actually more explanatory than what I'd known before.
Yes.
And you build a new web.
Yeah.
Right. So
our guy right. So he says.
He sounds like he's Russian or something.
He does. I couldn't quite place the accent.
I don't know accents that well. I should ask.
But it would probably. It would probably be better if he is. I mean, I would trust his understanding.
Yes.
A little bit better if he was used to living with under a government that you simply did not trust.
Right.
Right. What's the Solzhenitsyn on there? They're lying. We know they're lying. They know that we know that they're lying. They know that we know that they're lying, and they're still lying. It's like that's like the Russian cynicism
that's how bold it is.
Yes. So the reversal begins.
Right. So the idea, one of the main concepts is the native becomes the intruder.
Right.
The people who are actually the people who live there. Like think about England, all the stuff that's going on in England. The bad guys are the people who've been living there for centuries. The good guys are the people who just came in on boats from France.
Yeah, yeah. And somehow people get, what's the reverse, blue-pilled or whatever, who going, that's well, I'm hearing it from so many different directions.
Yeah.
Maybe that is how it really is.
Yeah, so the traditional majorities are caricatured as oppressors.
Right.
It doesn't matter individual actions. It's just that you have this collective guilt, the whole group. History is rewritten to portray your civilization only through the lens of guilt. And this, I think, this is what the school system is doing. It's trying to teach people.
Hold on, is this section 2 here?
This is section 1, I think. I mean, it also ties into section 2. But so normal expressions of identity, like maybe flying a flag or something like that, are seen as dangerous.
Yeah.
So basically, you're taking all the normal, healthy, patriotic influences that people naturally have, and you're flipping them around and say, no, those things are bad.
So let me see. As he says, the very people whose ancestors build these nations, who raise the families, till the land, pay taxes, now find themselves apologizing for simply existing.
Yeah.
And that's about right.
Yes. There's definitely that theme in what we see.
I remember, at the beginning when multiculturalism first reared its ugly head. Yeah. I'm going, what in the world is going on when the British are apologizing for being British? You brought civilization to the planet,
right?
And now you're a bunch of you guys, you're one generation, 2 generations ago, your grandparents stormed the beaches of Normandy, and now you're a bunch of mealy-mouthed.
And a few generations before that, they spent plenty of lives and treasure to get rid of the slave trade.
Yeah. I
mean, it's the British who basically got rid of the slave trade.
Wilberforce.
Yeah. So, but now they're supposed to feel guilty about everything because they're oppressors or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, citizens expressing concern about immigration policy is xenophobic. It's so it's this reversal. The natives are the bad guys now.
Right. All right. Section 2, the guilt.
The guilt, yes. So you're not supposed to think of what makes your culture good. You're not supposed to think about William Wilberforce. You're supposed to think about, we had slaves. Never mind, like if you're British, never mind the fact that you're you're the first civilization to ever challenge and overthrow slavery. You're supposed to feel guilty about the fact that you had slaves at some point.
I think it was last year's newsletter said, bring up colonialism, slavery, privilege, and oppression at every opportunity.
Yes.
Just everybody, everywhere, no matter where you work. Yeah. If you have influence over anybody, teachers, union bosses, I don't care who you are.
We need to decolonize the this and decolonize the that.
Yes. Use those words a lot. Right. Never forget about slavery. Say even though we've been talking about it since 1860. Remind people that we're not talking about it enough, and always be talking about it in the legacy.
Systematic guilt implantation through education, media, and HR training. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have HR training where you have to go into a room where you get berated and told, all these things.
Yes. Well, you're right. You get the Maoist struggle session,
right?
And then yes, this was also in the memo. Used the terms racist, transphobe, and Islamophobe every chance you get. If any objection to what they're saying, it's an ist or it's a phobe to not want to have this shoved down your throat. Just resistance.
But then they just say, check your privilege.
Yes, Defending yourself is proof of your guilt.
It's kind of like if someone confronts you that you have some whatever, and then you deny it. The denial is supposed to be evidence of the fact.
That's the Kafka trap.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. You're a terrorist. I'm not a terrorist. Exactly what a terrorist would say. Right. There's just no way. There's no way to win that.
There's no way to win. So self-censoring becomes a virtue.
Oh yeah, right. Maybe do some kneeling, maybe do
kissing some feet.
But of course, that's never going to absolve you.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't even give an inch,
right?
Because you're not going to get on the winning team here,
right?
Because the goal is to crush you,
right? The goal is not to listen to you or even to educate you.
Oh yeah, right. Because that's the thing. Yeah. Oh no, you have to listen to the voices. No, you have to listen to one voice.
Yes.
Not that we need to have the yes.
Having a conversation means listening to the liberal. That's what having a conversation means. And the conservative shutting up and listening to the liberal. That's what having a conversation means.
Right. It's not about justice. It's about control through confusion. So what's the name of it here? The deliberate subversion. Yes. The sins of the West can only be cleansed by participating in its own demise.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So you have to accept your role as an oppressor and a racist and a this, that, and the other thing, and then go along with the people who are trying to. That's part of the psychological game. The manipulation here is to convince people that they're guilty of what they're being accused of, and they have to side with. It's like all these schmucks who are giving money to Black Lives Matter. They're trying to absolve their sense of guilt over all the stuff that they've been taught through the education system.
It's not going to work.
Right.
You're thinking that this is going to get you some cover, but there's no cover. You're just buying a little time. Yeah. That's it. They'll just come for you last.
Right. They're going to put you up against the wall and shoot you sooner or later. Okay, so the two-tier system of compassion.
Yeah, right.
So justice for some, imbalance for others. Different rules for different groups. Now, once again, we see this. I think this process and this problem seems to be more advanced in England than it is in America right now.
It's in terms of two-tier justice, yes. Well, and South Africa.
Yes.
Where you have literal. Here it's done sneakily guise of equity,
right?
They just write it down on paper, black and white.
Yes,
and they just be like,
yeah,
this will. Well, if this group commits this crime, you know, it's excused by cultural relativism, and you know, well, look, he didn't know rape was a bad thing,
right?
So
burning down a building that's a legitimate form of expression, but silently praying is that's oppression.
Yes, because I mean, what are you thinking about while you're over there? That you know, that could make somebody uncomfortable. They literally will cops show up and say, your Facebook post has caused someone somewhere discomfort.
Right.
And being discomforted is a crime.
Well,
in a certain direction,
causing someone else to be discomforted. Oh, yes, only in a certain direction. Yes. Because if they cause a patriot, you know, somebody who believes in Britain to be discomforted, though, that's so what? I mean, you're supposed to be discomforted.
Yes. Yeah. But the fact that you own a dog and you're eating a hot dog at the same time could make certain groups uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that. We can't stand for that.
Can't stand for that. And we see the same thing with, I mean, okay, so imagine the craziness of arresting someone for silently praying and at the same time allowing Muslims to go out in the middle of a street and bow down for prayers, disrupting traffic and all that kind of stuff. What kind of craziness? It's you have to be pretty deep into the crazy to think that that's okay or normal.
Yes, and so I'm wondering if they have been captured, or if the street cop is like, I know what my supervisor, who is also not captured, but he's an appointed official to a politician. So it just trickles down from the politician to the supervisor to the street cop. Or are they captured as well? Are they if they're receiving the newsletter?
You know, you wonder at some point if it's not the emperor has no clothes. Like, how many people? So the street cop is afraid of the manager.
Yeah.
But the manager isn't really on board. The manager is afraid of the supervisor. Yeah. And the supervisor isn't really on board. He's afraid of this other guy. And maybe at bottom it's all just a lie, and it's all just the emperor has no clothes.
Right, and are they all in Soviet style, North Korea style, afraid to say anything? Or in, you know, when they're having a beer watching the football match, are they completely honest with each other? Or are they still afraid of an informant? Or have they been captured and they actually are all in?
I think it's funny because I think to some extent the capture is simply the self-censorship. It's not. It doesn't really matter if you believe it in your heart to a certain extent, as long as you shut up about it.
Yeah.
You know. So there is a sense of the capture just being, you have to go along with the program, you have to parrot these things, you have to say these things. It doesn't really matter if you believe it.
Yes, I can imagine a lot of people not smiling and nodding through their struggle session, and then going home to their spouse and like, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah. Think of the stupid crap.
All right, well, yes, I get it, honey, but, you know, we got to pay the mortgage, so, you know, just roll with it.
And how does this happen? This happens through this institutional capture, which is the media.
We're at Section 4.
Yeah, Section 4, institutional capture. So education, media, corporate policies, TV shows, movies, everything.
Activist judges.
Yeah, I mean, football. You know, you watch football game and it has these stupid sayings on the backs of the helmets and stuff, you know? I mean, institutional capture requires everybody in the institution to go along with the narrative. I don't really like using that word, the narrative, but it kind of...
I know, it's hard to come up with something better.
Talking points, I guess.
Yeah. But, I mean, is this all part of the long game? Is this... How have you gotten the most macho element in the country, the NFL football fan, to fall in line
with all this crap?
Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, you're the NFL. Are you really afraid? Are you really afraid that if we don't, you know, have Gay Pride Month, although I guess football's not going on, that if we don't celebrate Gay Pride Month, that you're going to lose fans?
Yeah, so I think this is part of the influence. You're being attacked from so many places. You're being attacked from the media, from TV shows, from all the people, all the so-called elite people are all saying this kind of stuff. And if you go against it, it's like how rude, how you are so out of it. You're so out of touch. You're not with the program.
Because you hear all the institutions doing it, but like in your life, you're going. In your life, nobody you interact with believes this stuff, but you are so. You are being so penetrated.
It's hard to push against
that you're thinking. Everybody but me and my own stupid friends must be thinking this. Yeah. And again, in an Emperor's New Clothes kind of a way, everybody's assuming that everybody else is on board.
Yes.
Only because it's the institutions, not the average person.
And it's self-censorship, and it's the risk that you take by fighting against it. Because if you speak up against it, then all of a sudden this big hammer comes down and tries to. Now there are people like
you would think that churches would be immune to this because aren't right. The laws of man don't mean anything, right? Compared to the laws of God. How could churches be penetrated by the...
Well, there's a bunch of ways. One way is that in a lot of churches, the pastor gets called by the congregation. If the congregation doesn't want him anymore, they're out of a job. Mm-hmm. So if you start to capture the influential people in the congregation with a certain stupid message, then the pastor has to kind of go along with that. And so there's institutional
but that's
bottom up.
That sounds bottom exactly. That sounds bottom up rather than top down.
And it works both ways because you have in some churches you have the people who are saying, we're not going to call you as a pastor unless you agree with blah blah blah. But then in other types of institutional capture, you have like the Methodists, where you're not going to be okay with the bishop and with the hierarchy if you don't go along with X, Y, and Z.
Right. Yeah. And you would think that if that were the case, then your normal parishioner would be like, all right, I got to find me another church. I'm out of here.
Right.
But then they're afraid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what if I leave this Presbyterian church and go to the more conservative one down the street? What are all of my friends that I have in this church? Yeah. Going to think about now you're
it's hard, but we've definitely had this capture. I mean, can you think of all the major universities, all the Ivy Leagues are just nuts now. They've all been captured.
Yep.
The media's
which
been
is
captured.
Part of the long game.
Yes.
This started in the 60s when the radicals on campus during the Vietnam movement are now seniors.
Are now the administrators.
Are now the administrators.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up this idea that it seems orchestrated, because I sort of thought of the sequence. You say, it seems like a plan, right? It's like it's coordinated.
He's right about this. First you do this, then you do this. But who's in charge of this?
I know exactly. So it seems like a plan, and then we see these documents, like this thing that you have here. This is from the Congressional Record of an explicit statement
from 1963.
Of communist goals of how they were going to undermine the West.
Yeah,
and it goes through this explicit stuff. So it seems orchestrated. And it seems like somebody's trying to do it. And then we see these explicit goals listed step by step by step. Right. But no, it's just your imagination. There's no connection between these things.
And this is 63. Some years later, you had the Saul Alinsky.
Yeah.
But still very old. 40 years old, probably.
Yeah. Isn't it weird that people easily believe that the U.S. is trying to undermine other countries and other governments, but they aren't willing to believe as much that, like, the Chinese are trying to undermine our government.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do people so easily say, the CIA is trying to do all these dastardly things, but the Chinese doing dastardly things here? Oh, come on, that's your imagination. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird. Anyway.
I was just thinking about the media, the obvious media cover-up. Everybody on the right knew that the media was covering for Joe.
Yes.
and now they can't help but admit it.
Yeah.
And then act like they're blindsided.
Yeah.
By it. So it just shows. I mean, they received literal talking points. You can watch anything from your local news to all of the, and they start using phraseology that they've never used before.
Just today, they all decided to use the word ambush for the way Trump treated the guy from South Africa in the White House.
And so they're all going to use the same word.
They've all got the same. Like there's somebody is sending out talking points on the fax machine.
Like my newsletter, my big newsletter.
Exactly. Yeah, and
so let's makes it sound not so fake.
Everybody use the word ambush because that's and
a threat to democracy. That was that took one day to be everybody's talking point. I mean, are they so lazy that they just have a pack mentality and they listen to each other, or is it literally orchestrated?
Yes. So that's an interesting question, because one explanation would be everybody's getting the talking point memo from Nancy Pelosi or what, she's sending out the newsletter today. That's one explanation. Another explanation is that they're so steeped and deep into this same mindset that when they hear a word, it resonates, It just kind of, that's the right thing.
So your local Baltimore news goes, on CNN last night.
They said this.
Oh, doesn't that sound good? They said gravitas. Let's use the word gravitas.
Right. Yeah, so that's a possibility. But I tell you, and this I'm going to put myself out on the edge here and tell you that when I see all this kind of stuff, and I say, look, there seems to be this plan, this orchestrated plan to undermine the West. And I think, okay, so does that mean that there's some Bond villain out there doing that?
Yeah, yes.
Does that mean that it's the Chinese party, they're sitting around, the Chinese communists are sitting around this? Yeah. Or is it like is it the devil? I mean, like, I don't really believe in the devil, but it makes you be tempted to believe in the devil. Like, how do you?
He's whispering in everyone's ear at once.
Yes.
It makes as much sense as anything else.
Yes, it seems like this court. Now, of course, Jordan Peterson would come along and say, no, but he would say that there's no devil, but that is the devil. Like this spirit, this coordinated spirit that is aiming towards something dastardly.
Yes.
That's the devil.
Something self-destructive.
Even though there isn't really a devil, but that's the devil.
Yes. And then you're like, Jordan, what do you mean? I just said it. Okay.
Okay. I didn't quite catch it. But can you try again?
Geez. All right. How about the long game?
Yeah. Well, the long game is we have elections every 2 years. We're worried about what's going to happen with the next congressional election, and the Chinese communists have 50-year plans and 25-year plans. And
but isn't this where the deep state comes along?
Yeah.
So you're like, yes, there are elected people, but the elected people aren't running the departments. Mm-hmm. You have the bureaucrats who know where the keys are and how everything works. They don't change.
Yeah.
You might have a new guy at the top, but the FBI and the CIA. I mean, until you have somebody coming through, like I suppose what's going on now, who wants to drain the swamp and clean house. Basically it's the same bunch of cats, and these people already got the newsletter, decades ago.
Yeah.
And they're entrenched, and they've got their agenda that is not really subject to these silly elections get in the way.
That's right.
Of progress.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea, the long game, is you want to demoralize, you want to confuse, you want to weaken identity, you want to replace shared values with shared language.
Yes, I would say all of the basic institutions that hold your country together.
Yeah.
Families are bad.
Right.
Religion is bad.
Right. Shared language is bad.
Patriotism is racism.
Right.
The police are bad and the criminals are victims.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things that you just start like.
You want to turn everything upside down. Yes. Turn everything upside down. And the point of it is to create a level of chaos that's so bad that now you can sweep in and
do what? That's my question. To what end? What is going to come from the rubble that of everything. Can you point? You've already
strongman dictator who's going to come in and take over, and I think
and do what? I mean, you've already had. This makes more sense in the 30s or something like that. You've already had 100 years of failure. You haven't shown us what this utopian model is that is going to come from the rubble of destroying this evil Western capitalist system. So they haven't articulated what this better thing is going to be because there's no evidence of it.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to think about this. If you think about it from the 1960s point of view, the point of undermining the United States is so that the communists can come in and take over and impose communism.
Yeah.
Right. No, but that was a clear ideology, or somewhat clear ideology, trying to destroy America and take it over with a different ideology. The communist Chinese are probably doing the same thing. But what are the woke Western idiots in the universities trying to replace it with?
Yes.
It's far less clear.
Thank you.
You know, it's not like they have some other vision. They just have this amorphous mess. It's this amorphous collection of a little bit of communist stuff and a little bit of postmodern this and a little bit of this.
And it's all about destroying and not replacing and not creating something new.
Right.
You know, the original model, dumb ass Marx was like, capitalism is so bad that there's going to be a violent revolution of the oppressed proletariat against the capitalist, and absolutely none of that ever happened.
And where was it supposed to happen?
Oh, in Germany and England.
In the industrialized societies.
Yes.
And where did it happen?
Only in shitty
Russia and China.
Yes.
Right. Yes. It's so, I mean,
Marx was wrong. It was just so wrong.
Yeah.
And instead of people going, all right, so instead of admitting that was wrong, no, they were okay with that being totally wrong.
Yeah.
Then you get to the end of the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then normal people like us were like, "Phew, all right, well, you know,
it's the end of history.
We had a fight, and we won, and we had a clear winner. So moving on, everybody can get on board with Western capitalism and liberalized democracies." And these people just went, all right, so that didn't work. How are we going to...
Try Plan 3.
Yeah, Plan 3 is this undermining business that we have now.
But I still don't know what they want to replace it with.
No, there's no such articulation.
To some extent, all they're trying to replace it with is them being in power and getting all the marbles and all the money, right?
Yeah.
That they're trying...
But they're going to... Yes, and they will, but they're going to rule over... failed they're going to live in, it's like, BLM buying up fancy houses in expensive neighborhoods. They're going to be in walled cities of the elites while the rest of the country crumbles, and you're gonna call that a success?
What a shakedown. BLM, what a shakedown operation that was. That is like, people are going to study that for years. About what a successful shakedown that whole BLM nonsense was. It's amazing how those people just took advantage of people.
Yeah, anyway. So the guy said, he says that the true crux to the matrix, the end goal is not justice, not harmony, but a population too confused to resist and too fragmented to unite.
Right.
Right? Once you've broken up everybody into warring factions, that, again, I don't know. The wokeness is the current tool.
Yes.
And I would say the great litmus test of fealty to the new regime is trans.
Yeah.
It's Winston Smith in 1984 when the party can convince you not to just repeat back to them, but you believe in your heart that 2 + 2 = 5 because the party says so. They know they got you. And to me, that's what trans is. It's when we can get you to say men can become women, we can make you think and do anything we want. This is the ultimate test.
In a way, it's sort of like hazing. One of the points of hazing is to prove that you're on our side, you're on our team. Right. You'll do this stupid thing because you want so badly to be on our team.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
so
yeah.
it's the same kind of thing with the trans stuff. The trans stuff is so intellectually bankrupt, it's so ridiculously stupid. but people sign on to it.
Yes, they do because they want to be
they want to be on the team.
On that team.
Yeah.
I saw my first trans hiker the other day on the trail.
Is that right?
Yes. I then afterwards I went and called Homeland Security.
And had them picked up.
Well, no, I saw a suspicious package. And, see something, say something.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
They said, what did you see? Suspicious package. So
what is the goal? What are they going to replace it with? Once again, you could go back to the supernatural thing. It's the ruin of souls and just the destruction of humanity.
Yep.
If you think about it, Western civilization and Western society has done more good for the planet and for humanity than anything else.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to like destroy humanity, what would you do? You would attack it at its brightest point. And that's what we're seeing.
If you were the devil.
Yes, if you were the devil.
It's like the Howard Zinn view of history.
Yeah.
Imagine if you, because it's not lies,
yeah.
Okay? Imagine we're at your memorial service,
yeah,
and everybody agrees that overall, you know what, Crow Hill, that was a pretty good guy, but everybody who got up there said, but there was this one time, right? So they're not telling lies about you, but they're deciding this is what we're going to choose to remember the guy by.
Yes,
and that is how. We're taught about Western civilization.
Yes.
And
we're not taught about the good things that it's
yes.
done. We're taught about the bad things that it's done. Yes.
And that's part of the undermining, of course. It's in celebrating destruction, celebrating bringing things down without ever building anything up.
Yeah.
Or even, statues of George Floyd. So our statues are
Have
going to
you seen the
be...
new Floyd, new statues that are going up?
Of what?
The new statues in New York that they're putting up?
The big fat lady?
Yeah.
Yes. So
what is that about?
Right. It's like, what you're telling me is you can't think of a single black woman that deserves to be honored. So we are going to honor a overweight,
generic,
do nothing black woman who has produced nothing and inspired nothing,
and is looking at her phone,
and that's what we're going to
celebrate.
That's what we celebrate. That's who you hold up as heroes.
Yes,
says a lot about your culture.
Absolutely.
And I think this is probably in one of the memos that celebrate victimhood.
Get rid of all the heroes.
Get rid of heroes and celebrate victimhood.
Yeah, and make your heroes really disgusting people.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the statue, but like make your heroes somebody like P. Diddy or rappers and stuff like that. Yeah. All right. So there's definitely a intentional, deliberate subversion going on.
Yeah, that is now. We try to end on a up note. So this is my up note.
Okay.
Unless you got are we good?
I'm racking my brain for an up note. So come up.
I got it.
What do you got?
It's that. Wokeness is the weapon of those intent on destroying the West.
Yeah.
And I would say wokeness is on the wane. We have hit peak woke.
I would hope so.
And I am being very optimistic about that. Just because I need to be. and it's ushered in by Donald J. Trump.
To some extent. To some extent. Absolutely.
All right. So hopefully I won't get any more newsletters.
Cheers. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.